In the programs I do now for kids, for example, in schools, whenever I can, I try and tell a folk tale and illustrate it by designs that come from that culture or related cultures. If I tell a story from Africa, like an Anansi story, I'll paint up characters based on African mask designs. Mostly I invent my own because I have to illustrate the story, but I try and use the structure you see in those mask designs. Every now and then I get really lucky and I find a folktale that has its own face. Ready for this? We're going to make you a demon. Okay, what I need you to do is really simple. Just put your head up, close your eyes gently, and stay relaxed, just like that. Don't open your eyes while I paint you. Not that the makeup could hurt you, but it's just so much easier to paint you. So still. That's perfect. This is a story I found in a book. A book of Japanese myths and legends. And when we hear a story like this, that's what we think of it as. It's just a story, just a legend. But this one comes from the official Japanese court record of more than 1,000 years ago. This one was written down 1,000 years ago as history. This is the tale of the demon on the bridge. At a time 1,000 years ago in the province of Omi, times were good. The wars were over. The land was at peace. Even the soldiers had little to do. They'd sit around in their barracks, just talking like men will. Talking about how much they wish to go home, back to their families. Talking about their lives before the war. And some of them, well, they would brag about themselves, how brave they were, how many enemies they had defeated. And one soldier, he went on bragging about himself more than most. He went on saying that he had never lost a battle, never seen an enemy that frightened him. And finally, the other soldiers, they got a little tired of it, and they said, oh yeah, well, if you're so brave, why don't you go across the bridge and tell us all what the demon looks like? Everyone, for more than 100 years, had said that there was a demon that lived in the middle of the bridge over the Omi River. And so, no one dared to cross it. Now, no one could say what the demon looked like, for no one had actually seen it. Or perhaps if they had seen it, they hadn't lived to tell what they'd seen. But still, no one dared to cross the bridge. Now, this soldier, this braggart, he said, oh, I'm not afraid of any demon. I'd cross the bridge today if I had a fast enough horse. I'd go right now. And the other soldiers all said, you're on. It's a bet. We want to see you do it. Take any one of our horses, ride across the bridge. We want to see it. And the soldier said, no, guys. I said I would need a fast enough horse to ride across the bridge. I would need the governor's horse to ride across that bridge. Now, he said that because, of course, everyone knew that the governor's horse was the fastest horse in the land. But also, after all, this was the governor's horse he was talking about. Not a horse that he would ever lend to a lowly soldier. So this was his way to boast. But get out of it. What he didn't know is that the governor was in the next room, listening, and he walked to the door and he said, you, soldier, I heard your words, and you will have my horse, and I command you to ride across the bridge today. For a man must live up to his boasts, no matter how foolish they are. And now the soldier was stuck. He had to ride across the bridge. Well, he went down to the stables to get the governor's horse. Meanwhile, the other soldiers and the governor went the long way around the river to wait for him on the other side. As he got the horse, he had an idea, just in case he thought it wasn't fast enough. Before he put the saddle on, he took a little grease and smeared it over the back end of the horse, just in case. Then he climbed onto the horse and began to ride down towards the bridge. And indeed, the horse was so fast, he felt like he was flying. He had never ridden on an animal so quick before. He reached the bridge before he even knew it. Seeing the men and the governor on the other side, he began to gallop across the bridge so quickly that he thought he'd make it before any monster or demon could find him. But then he got to the middle of the bridge, and he saw a young woman walking towards him, and he thought, oh no, she must not know of the demon on the bridge. I must rescue her. So he pulled the horse up, and he reached down to grab the girl. When he saw a glint of yellow in her eye, and he realized that this was the demon in disguise, and he spurred the horse on and escaped. But he had to know what the demon looked like, so he looked over his shoulder as he rode away, and he saw indeed the girl turn into the demon and reach for him with its arms. But its claws grabbed the horse and slid right off the grease. Now when the man reached the other side, the governor greeted him as a hero. You are the bravest of all my men. I will make you a captain. I will make you a rich man. If only you will tell me, what did the demon look like? But the soldier would not speak. He would not say what he had seen, for it had frightened him so. That day he resigned his commission and fled and hid himself in his house and locked his door, afraid that the demon, in vengeance, would come after him. Now, if the soldier would not speak, you may be wondering how I know what the demon looked like. A year to the day later, he heard a knock on his door. It was his brother, with the sad news that their mother had grown ill. So his wife let the brother in and left the two men to talk and make plans as she went to get them some tea. And as she was fixing the tea, she heard her husband yell, "Bring me my sword!" But it was too late. For she rushed back into the room with his sword. She saw that the brother indeed had been the demon in disguise. And as she watched, it grabbed her husband and held him tight. And they disappeared in a puff of smoke, never to be seen again. And the last thing she heard was the voice of the demon. That is the end of that. And in her official report to the Japanese authorities on the disappearance of her husband on that day, the anniversary of his ride across the bridge, she described the demon that stood before her in her room. It was 12 feet tall, she said, with arms 7 feet long with 3 claws on each hand. Its face was red as blood. From its mouth there were 2 sets of fangs. On its head there grew 2 horns. And most frightening of all, the thing she said she could never forget, the thing she said she saw whenever she closed her eyes, was the eye of the demon, there, in the middle of its forehead. One glowing eye. So in the official Japanese court records of the province of Omi, written 1,000 years ago, this is the face of the demon on the bridge. Boy, you do a good job singing. You ready for this? You might not recognize yourself, I gotta warn you. There you are, you're the demon on the bridge. Thank you. Can we give him a really nice round of applause? Thank you.